Welcome to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in Star Wars Visions. So Visions is a series of anime shorts that are inspired by, but don't take place in the actual Star Wars canon. And I think it's interesting that on social media I saw a lot of fans say, but what's the point if it doesn't count? And that's silly. If the story is entertaining, who cares if it connects to continuity? Like Alan Moore said in his introduction to Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, this is an imaginary story. But then again, aren't they all? The first episode is The Duel, and it's the most heavily inspired by the films of Akira Kurosawa. Of course, I'm sure that you know that Star Wars is heavily influenced by Kurosawa, especially Hidden Fortress and A New Hope, but it continues to permeate shows like The Mandalorian, and episodes like Sanctuary and The Jedi. This episode mimics the basic structure of Yojimbo, where a warrior comes into a town and defeats the bandits who are terrorizing the people with the help of a sweet old man, which of course was remade for the movie A Fistful of Dollars. Samurai films influence many westerns, but westerns are about a lone hero helping to civilize the land, while samurai films are set in places where order is breaking down. Which brings us to The Duel. The sweet old man I mentioned earlier is a Celestin, like Nien Nunb.
Why does Creepo get to be the co-pilot?
Now the bandits in this short are wearing the remnants of old stormtrooper armor, again filling the power vacuum in a land that's become less civilized with the Empire being long gone. The warrior's droid is an astromech unit that is a stand-in for the horse that a warrior normally rides into town in these kind of stories. And there are a few other small tidbits from Star Wars here and there. This is a Tusken Raider's rifle, this is a Gran, a Trandoshan, there's a Gonk droid here at the end, Arbesh riding Oliver Town, and when the droid saves the warrior, he uses the whistling birds that we first saw in The Mandalorian. So this really is a remix of a remix of a remix. Now my take on this episode is that the warrior is a former Sith who left the cult behind, and to make things right, he roams the galaxy, eliminating them one at a time. He doesn't care about the bandits in the village until a Sith warrior shows up to lead them. It was also a nice touch that he uses a shrine to deceive her, making it appear to be another Sith. This could also be an indication that he is actually a Jedi, posing as a Sith and using Sith sabers. Episode 2 is called Tatooine Rhapsody, and it's one of the few that could actually connect within the Star Wars continuity. Now of course, anytime something involves rock and roll and the word Rhapsody, we're going to be reminded of the song Bohemian Rhapsody, and also the movie, which, side note, won Best Editing but contains this awful edit.
I blow you a kiss when I'm on stage.
But the word Rhapsody means expressing a burst of raw emotion. See, this is our hero's journey, to go from a Jedi Padawan who's trained to mute his emotions, to a rock singer who shares his emotions with arenas of fans. So the episode begins with the Jedi Purge and the Padawan falling among the wreckage of battle droids. He's saved by a Hutt who I think is wearing a wig. It's pretty weird when they try to change a Hutt's appearance, like when Clone Wars turned Zero into Truman Capote.
What is it, Kronos 327?
Years or months later, Boba Fett shows up to take a bounty on this Hutt, and notice that he's voiced by Tamura Morrison.
I have business with this slug.
There are a lot of species in the crowd, including Rodian, Ithorian, Twi'lek, Duron, and a Godel. And later in the episode, we see Bith, Banthas, Jawas, Arcona, and on the skiff, a Weequay, a Nikto, and Gamorreans. I was a little bummed out that a young Max Rebo wasn't in the crowd getting inspired to go out there and start his own band, but it seems like that these Bith are getting inspired to start hitting the scene. And of course, they're listening inside Mos Eisley Cantina, where Krabby Old Wur is already bartending. The band plays for their Hutt's life at the Boonta Eve racetrack, where Anakin pod raced in The Phantom Menace.
Now this is pod racing.
I like how they filmed the stands as if they were restricted by the same camera placements in The Phantom Menace. Notice how the crowd shots align so closely. And Jabba is there with Bib Fortuna to oversee the execution/concert. His little tail tap was my favorite part of the episode. And of course, this final sequence has a couple of parallels. One is Luke Skywalker begging for his friend's life.
Jabba, this is your last chance. Free us or die.
Jabba! We'll give you a chance!
But the more important parallel here is with Anakin Skywalker. Anakin's pod race was the first time he used his Force abilities publicly. In many ways, this was his first step to becoming a Jedi. Whereas this is this Padawan's moment where he finally decides to balance his life as a Jedi and a rock singer. His lightsaber is actually a mic.
Calm down. It's just a mic.
He is no longer hiding like a rogue Padawan, now using his abilities publicly. And he ties up his hair into a top knot, a little more like the look of the samurai-inspired Jedi. And of course, we hear,
I got a bad feeling about this.
which we also hear all throughout every Star Wars movie.
I
got a bad feeling about this.
I have a bad feeling about this.
And there's a running theme through many of these episodes about balance, which makes sense. Balance exists at the heart of Star Wars. Everything is a duality. Rebels, Empire, good side of the Force, dark side of the Force, the balance of the Force, Jedi, Sith. Everything always comes in pairs. Rey and Ben are a dyad, and Luke and Leia are twins. And balance and twins are the subject of Episode 3, The Twins. This episode takes place on twin Star Destroyers called a Gemini class that together form a kind of Death Star superweapon, where the energy of a kyber crystal is routed through these dark side clones. Kyber crystals, in addition to being at the heart of every lightsaber, are also what powered the original Death Star. It's why the Empire was bleeding Jedha dry before destroying it. There are lots of standard Star Wars machinery and gear. The kyber chamber in the middle is made to look like the core of Death Star 2. There's also a protocol droid, stun setting, AT-ST, an X-Wing. The renegade twin dresses like Han Solo. The evil one holds many lightsabers like Grievous, and this chair is modeled after the Emperor's throne, and the evil twin's helmet is based off of one of Ralph McQuarrie's early Darth Vader designs. There's also our standard.
So you have a bad feeling about this.
One of a few dialogue callbacks to the original Star Wars that you probably noticed.
There is no try, only do.
Try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try.
And
To a galaxy far, far away.
is a callback to the opening title card. And this
We were made to bring back order with this power that transcends even death itself.
seems like a nod to Palpatine's promise of the dark side.
He could even keep the ones he cared about from dying.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Now, when she starts wielding many red sabers against the single blue saber, I thought that was a neat visual metaphor for the fight against the much larger Empire and the smaller rebellion. My favorite part of the episode was this wicked shot. And afterwards we get this beautiful stillness, like the shot following the Holdo maneuver in Last Jedi. And finally, did you wonder why this droid was wearing a helmet? It was so it would have the air to speak. Next up, episode 4 is called The Village Bride, following a former Jedi after the fall, trying to hide her identity. Once again, the theme here is balance. The people of this world treat their planet with reverence.
We are the sky. We are the forest. We are the river.
And have achieved such perfect balance that the world shares its memories with them.
Okay, just like this. We're making a path for the fish.
The planet is also a metaphor for the Force itself. There's the living Force radiated by all living beings, like in nature, and the cosmic Force, a higher intelligence that shares insights, kind of like the planet's memories. But the Raiders are using a reprogrammed droid army to disrupt this balance. And the B-1 battle droids use the same voice that they used in the prequels and Clone Wars.
Where are they? There they are. Where'd they go? Whoa, 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 whoa.
There are a few Star Wars species in this episode, like an Ithorian, a Twi'lek, and an Abyssian. Later, we see the sister is carrying a thermal detonator, and the Raider ship seems modeled after a Corellian YT-1300 freighter like the Millennium Falcon. And then, of course, there's this.
I have a bad feeling about this.
So the story is about a young woman basically offering herself as tribute to save her grandfather on her wedding day. Again, speaking to the theme of balance, her sister chooses a more violent path to save her planet, just as the Jedi in this episode has to choose between being passive and saving the homeworld of her master. When the Jedi does intervene, she stops the lightsaber blast like Kylo Ren did, and her saber is yellow, like Rey's, and it has a thin blade like the Darksaber. So we're seeing a really cool mix of the Clone Wars and sequel trilogy. Also, high-heel jet boots. Awesome. The episode is about harmony and the marriage between the people and the Earth. In the end, the Jedi has to embrace her own identity.
It doesn't suit you, that mask.
And find the balance within herself, just as the people have found balance on this world. Now let's talk about my favorite episode, The Ninth Jedi. This is also the one that seems the most removed from Star Wars continuity, with the fewest Easter eggs. It could take place in the distant past, the distant future, or it could just be a reimagining of Star Wars. It comes at a time when the Jedi Order has, once again, been destroyed. They really are the Uncle Ben of the galaxy, aren't they? The Margrave is trying to rekindle the Jedi Order in a new, inventive way, by creating incredibly Force-sensitive lightsabers lightsabers that will help the Force-sensitive people harness their power and destroy the Sith.
Well, I guess my connection to the Force isn't strong enough since the blade doesn't have any real color.
I loved this new aspect of the lightsabers, that they're so tied to their user that their blade becomes brighter if they're strong with the Force, and the color changes according to the goodness or badness in their soul. It's a very cool way to integrate the physical with the metaphysical. The sabersmith is crafting the sabers with a kyber crystal, just like in main Star Wars continuity, and his daughter is skyfishing by casting lines into the heavens, very similar to how the Margrave is trying to attract 8 Jedi from across the stars. There's very few other connections to Star Wars apart from the sound of the speeder bike.
Hey, wait!
And this moment,
The Force is strong in this child.
was like this.
The Force is strong with this one.
And the shuttle pilot droid looked a lot like the B-1 battle droids or helper from the Venture Brothers. And how about that moment when the sabers ignited red? It's so cool. The theme of this episode is hope, specifically hope in the future. The sabersmith's daughter's connection to the Force is undefined, just like the future. She hopes that the saber will become stronger and come to fit her size, but who knows what the future holds. She might be corrupted by the dark side and her saber could turn red. But we know this for sure. These are the final lightsabers because the sabersmith is dead. Now it's all up to these people to rekindle the light of the Jedi. 10 out of 10 would watch this TV series. Alright, so now let's talk about episode 6, TOB1, or to be one, as in this droid wants to be one of the Jedi. He lives with an old Jedi Master who has no arms, so he relies on droids to carry on with his work. Lots of Easter eggs in this episode. There's a medical droid here. These canisters match the one behind the cantina bar. They could be on Tatooine because of the twin suns, and this epic story on the wall depicts several of the movies. We see Jedi and Sith fighting, the Jedi Temple with Clone Wars era Republic destroyers rising to go off to war, TIE fighters, X-Wings, Y-Wings. These AT-ATs and AT-STs recreate the Battle of Hoth with a Wampa right here. This is a pose that looks like Luke from the original Star Wars movie poster with several stormtroopers firing at it. And here there is Grievous fighting with his multiple arms and another Sith fighting with 2 sabers. And there's also a lot of Arabic letters in this episode. So I went to go translate them, and what I found is that most of them spell out words in languages other than English. So I decided not to translate a translation of a translation because it'll end up sounding like gibberish.
Macho business donkey. Wrestler, well there you go.
So to be one is framed as a kind of Pinocchio, dreaming of becoming a real boy. And his creator is like Geppetto, a lonely old man who surrounds himself with machines that he's created. They have the goal of terraforming the desert, a way to serve life, the essence of a Jedi's mission within the Force. This line,
adventure, excitement. I am afraid that being a Jedi is not as glamorous as it is in your dreams.
Is a spin on Master Yoda's.
Adventure. Excitement. A Jedi craves not these things.
He tells Toby that he needs to find a kyber crystal.
I've heard young Padawans. The apprentices of Jedi Knights must search for their crystal first.
As we saw in the Clone Wars, when a group of Padawans found their crystals in Ilum. Then he inadvertently summons a Sith who is chilling on a Star Destroyer and flies in a pretty badass modified TIE fighter. The Master's last words,
I am one with the Force. The Force is with me.
Are of course the mantra that Chirrut Imwe spoke in Rogue One.
I'm one with the Force is with me. I'm one with the Force is with me.
So when To Be One awakens, it's a pretty scary sequence, every kid's worst nightmare. Waking up and your parents are dead and you're all alone. So I'm assuming what happened here was there was an aerial bombardment by the Star Destroyer and then the droids buried his body. There's a parallel here with Luke Skywalker, who answered his own call to adventure after finding his own family dead.
Look at us. Hey, look at us. Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
And I loved how the rain made it look like the droid could cry. In a way, it's like the moment he created life on the planet was when he created life within himself. And then we see the Master's Kyber crystal was actually powering the droid, which is so sweet. He built this little guy from his lightsaber, basically declaring that his new instrument in the Force would be to create life and not destroy it. The Master appears as a Force ghost and gives the droid strength to fight the Sith as he passes his trial and is anointed a Jedi Knight. And his quest to find the Kyber crystal? Well, it turns out the real Kyber crystal was inside of himself all along. Episode 7 is called The Elder, and it's one of the more straightforward stories. Again, it could even fit in Star Wars continuity. A Master and a Padawan traveling to the Outer Rim definitely sounds like it could happen in the prequels or High Republic era to me. They mention,
no, it cannot be Sith.
It's been hundreds of years since they were destroyed.
Just like in Star Wars continuity, where the Sith were believed to be dead for 1,000 years. Sidebar, I'm dying for that movie series. A prequel set at the dawn of the Republic when the Jedi defeated a Sith army. Let me know what Star Wars movie you're most hungry for down in the comments. The Master says,
The seeds of misfortune when in peaceful soil can be easy to overlook.
Which is very wise and basically describes how Palpatine was able to rise to power when the Republic was at its greatest strength. No one saw that coming. The Master feels a disturbance in the Force similar to this.
I felt a great disturbance in the Force.
Then he passes on this bit of wisdom.
A Jedi must find balance and stillness.
Again, contributing to Star Wars Vision's larger theme of maintaining balance. And in this case, it is balance and stillness that win the final duel. The Master and Padawan find balance with one another, and the Master uses the stillness to strike the final blow. The three main characters of the episode are the Elder, an old man who is defeated by time.
What defeated the Elder in the end was not me, but time.
The Master, who is at his highest strength and is about to wane, and the Padawan, who is the future and growing stronger every day. The three of them are an interpretation of the riddle of the Sphinx, which is what has 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs at night, being a human, crawling in 4 legs in the morning of its life, walking on 2 legs through most of its life, and then using a cane in its elder years. This shows the balance inherent in the cycle of life. The Elder decays into the earth while new life arrives to take its place.
And you shall continue to get stronger.
Also, there's hexagons on the chairs.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah!
The Padawan craves adventure and excitement.
I was hoping for something a little more stimulating. Like maybe more action.
Much like a young Luke Skywalker.
Adventure. Excitement. A Jedi craves not these things.
And of course, we get this.
But I've got a bad feeling about this.
Huh?
The Elder has Sith eyes like Darth Maul, Vader, and Palpatine, and he wields 2 badass thin sabers that are more like energy katanas. Now during the duel, he uses Sith lightning and reaches a draw with the Master. But then, when he's distracted by the Padawan, the Master deactivates his saber, freeing it from the hold of the lightning, and then reignites it inside his enemy. It's a pretty sweet maneuver, but it's also indicative of how he uses balance and stillness to conquer the Sith. The episode ends by showing the future of the galaxy, the children, and this one actually looks like a character from Knights of the Old Republic, That's Your Mom. Now let's talk about Episode 8, Lop and Ocho. Definitely the most emotional episode, showing how the Galactic Civil War divided even families. We begin with a Star Destroyer over planet Tau, a planet with abundant resources but no industry, so they seek a partnership with the Empire. Now this is interesting. You could say that the planet was perfectly balanced before the Empire arrived, or that they required industry and the Empire could have provided that balance. But the Empire takes it too far, like they always do, and they strip the planet of its resources and foment a rebellion. I love this shot of the Star Destroyer in the atmosphere, showing them just bearing down on the people. As Lop runs through the market, we see a Gran and an Aqualish. Notice the writing on the banners is not in Arabesh, it's in the planet's native language because they've only recently made a connection to the greater galaxy. Lop was an Imperial laborer, basically a slave.
I don't like that word.
Sorry, a prisoner with a job, and she's taken in by the family of Ocho and her father. And here is a Star Wars curse word that we heard all over The Mandalorian. A humanoid bunny character appearing in Star Wars seems like a nod to Jaxxon, who first appeared in the comic book Star Wars number 7. George Lucas hated having a cartoon bunny in Star Wars so much that he insisted to Marvel Comics that he approve any new character that they created afterwards. Conventional wisdom would say that the kid is the rebel and the parent would side with the Empire, but I like how that gets flipped around in this episode. Kids are always willing to accept the new ways of living while parents typically want to honor the old ways. So it's the dad who leads the rebellion and Ocho who wants the benefits from Imperial rule. Ocho and Lop ride a speeder along this elevated highway, very reminiscent of Corellia in Solo. Lop's droid makes this sound, which sounds an awful lot like the droid detector in the Mos Eisley Cantina. In fact, the episode borrows a lot of subtle sound design from the films, like the speeder. The Imperial officer is wearing a white uniform, normally worn by Grand Admirals like Thrawn, but also worn by Imperial directors like Orson Krennic. Later, Ocho wears a similar uniform, denoting how high she enters the Imperial power structure. The dad says,
We've lived a long time without any assistance from the Republic.
Referencing the recently fallen Republic, setting this just as the Empire was first coming to power and promising planets order and prosperity. When the dad unlocks the box, we see a mural depicting the Jedi coming to Tau long ago. The ship looks like a Jedi starfighter, and the crane symbol at the end of the story resembles the insignia of the Jedi sun. I love this detail. It shows how stories can be taken and reinterpreted throughout history as iconography is shared among different civilizations. Such a cool detail. And the final result even looks like a cross between the Jedi insignia and the logo of the Rebel Alliance, showing the father as the marriage of those two groups. I thought it was also interesting how the symbol of the house is 3 circles, perhaps meaning Ocho, Lop, and their father. And the duel was epic. When Ocho says this,
"That's the family sword. What are you doing with that? I'm the successor!"
her sense of entitlement reminded me of Kylo Ren in Force Awakens.
That lightsaber, it belongs to me.
And this line,
"Inheritance has nothing to do with blood,"
really cuts to the heart of the episode. It shows that everyone is part of the same family through the Force. Lop already lost one family, so she really understands the value of understanding one another and working together, while Ocho is young and desperate to prove herself and wants to earn a living for her and her planet. It really is a tragedy of 2 warring points of view, 2 sisters who both want what's best for their world. And finally, let's talk about Episode 9, the good Episode 9, Akakiri, which in Japanese means red fog, and we'll discuss the full meaning of that later on. The episode begins with what looks like a B-wing crashing onto this world and a Jedi fighting local tribesmen until he's overcome with visions of the future. Now you'll notice an immediate parallel here with Anakin Skywalker, who is troubled with visions of his mother and then of Padme.
No.
You having a bad dream there, Anakin? Wow, such acting. So it turns out that as a younger man, this Jedi had feelings for his princess. The unrequited love calls to mind Obi-Wan and Duchess Satine from Clone Wars, who never acted on their romantic feelings, but always felt a strong bond between them. There's also a few direct Star Wars references like this.
Oh, I see. Jedi judge by appearances, do they?
Judge me by my size, do you?
And the peasants mention Tuca cats, which we've seen in animation and in The Mandalorian. Now it turns out that the princess's auntie was a Sith who pulled a Hamlet and took over her brother's kingdom. So they go on a long journey on their space ostriches while eventually introducing the theme of the episode, fate versus determinism. When the peasant is lost on the mountain, his friend says that it was fate. The Jedi answers,
"Nothing is predestined."
Now this plot point is borrowed heavily from Lawrence of Arabia, when Lawrence returns to the desert to find a lost man.
Nothing is written.
And later, Lawrence is forced to kill the man to keep the peace between the tribes. Very similar to this episode, when the peasant dies anyways. This theme is picked up later on by Auntie Sith, who says,
"He was always going to die because it was written. There is nothing that has not been fated."
The Jedi's master gave him a warning about traveling to the planet because his feelings for the princess clouded his ability to use the Force. Luke faced a similar temptation when he abandoned his training to save Han and Leia.
I can't keep the vision out of my head. They're my friends. I gotta help them.
You must not go.
So in this case, the Jedi's feelings for the princess cloud his ability to interpret his vision. The visions are murky with red fog, the power of the dark side to obscure the future and his motives. Just like Anakin Skywalker and Oedipus Rex, his desire to avert a future causes that future to happen. Now, as I said before, these episodes are about balance. This Jedi, rather than finding balance within the world, tries to control the world. He is determined to show that his will is greater than destiny, and by lashing out against fate, trying to control it, he falls to the dark side. Auntie Sith's offer,
"Why don't we try to save Misa together?"
is very much like Palpatine's to Anakin.
If we work together, I know we can discover this.
With both of them becoming a Sith apprentice to save the woman they love. Then the red fog of the Sith clouds the world, just as it clouded his visions. The two of them take off on a Star Destroyer together, and Star Wars Visions ends on a damn dark note. But what did you think? What was your favorite episode? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, guys, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.